5 years after we broke up, he's kind of still. If you ever caught yourself Googling if you should break up with your boyfriend, this video is for you because, girl, I've been there. I wanted to talk about why you should break up with your boyfriend if he doesn't want to marry you. And caveat, yes, this is for a girl out there or women who wants to be married. And, sometimes it might be an easy answer. Like, of course, why would you be together if your values don't align like that? But for some like me, it definitely took me 6 years too long to realize that in one of my relationships. I definitely have not always made the wisest decisions in relationships, and I wanted to go through that of my own history. We're also going to talk about sex in this video, so for those who might come across this video, maybe if you're a family member and don't want to hear about that stuff from my point of view, you have been warned. I'm not going to talk about everything about my life, every single detail. I'm just going to talk about the things I want to talk about, but I think this is a message that all young girls, women need to hear out there. And yeah, it's a message that I wish I heard more of or seen more of as well. And so about me, I think my history with relationships has been definitely had its ups and downs for sure. Growing up, I guess I definitely was one of those girls that wanted to feel validated from being in a relationship. I would compare my life to my peers and others ever since middle school, where my friends would get into relationships and I would never get asked out and stuff. And so I was thinking oh, the thing to do to make sure you're like a person that's worthy is to be in a relationship. But I grew up in a pretty strict household, so I didn't really get into going out on dates maybe until I was 16, 17. But now that I think about it, 16, 17 is still pretty young. I mean, it's pretty much the normal age with growing up in America, I think, to really be starting relationships. Some start earlier, some started after. But anyways, I grew up in a pretty strict household where I didn't get to go out a lot as well. So there was no really dating a lot, but I did have my first boyfriend in 16, 17. And of course, that first relationship, it's nervous and everything's new. So I think I definitely, not a lot of confidence either that time. That one was a fine, normal relationship, whatever. So it ended. And then, I started college, and that was kind of my first taste of freedom. I was hours away from home. I was living on my own or with roommates that were my age. Definitely got into the partying scene maybe a little bit too hard. I just wanted to experience everything. I wanted to experience all the fun stuff, going out every other night, and so I met a lot of boys and a lot of party boys, and I found myself in relationships, a different relationship every single year. And where sex comes into play is that I felt that I was young. I wasn't necessarily looking for a relationship, but I was out to have fun. And with that came hookups in at least in my experience. And with those hookups, they were mostly with guys, boys who like to party too. So at first it was nothing. I didn't want even want like friends with benefits from there. But then it eventually turned into relationships. So I kind of fell into relationships with the wrong guys all throughout college. Um, and then into my 20s, guys who didn't want to grow up. And that was kind of my world because I was young. I wanted to go out partying. I loved going to the club, dancing with my friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely nothing wrong with going out, having fun, having a good time, as long as you're safe. But then I think that the guys that I was attracting during that time were maybe not the ones that were right for me. Because at the end of the day, even though I was like living my life in my young 20s, early college days, I was like, I'm not worried about getting married right now. I don't want to rush into getting married. I want to live my life in my 20s. I knew my whole life, I knew that I did eventually want to get married. I wanted to settle down. I wanted to have children. That's the life that I knew I wanted for myself my whole entire life. Even though during the 20s, I was like, I'm gonna just be chill and just kind of live my life partying with my gals. And if I meet a guy and if he's cool, if we vibe, then we eventually hang out more, and then eventually we become an item. So that's how my relationships really got rolling, and just like in my early 20s. And it wasn't it definitely wasn't the healthiest. A lot of those guys did not treat me right. And the funny thing is that when the moment that they stopped, where I knew they stopped treating me right, it was really easy for me to end things, um, even sometimes go no contact. Uh, I, if I like was able to identify, okay, this guy, he was either treating me abusively or treating me really wrong or did something really wrong. I was able to define it there, and I was like, okay, moving on, on to the next. But the relationship that I got into after college was a little bit different from that. And it was this boy that I knew from college, kind of as acquaintances. We were always dating other people. We never really hung out until like after college. We found that we were both single, and we met up at a friend's birthday and hit it off right away. And we started hanging out and started going on dates. And I remember one of the first things I said to him, I was 23 years old when we started dating. One of the first things I told him was, this isn't anything serious. And lo and behold, that would be a theme that carried out throughout our whole entire relationship for the next 6 years that we were together. And I think that when starting out, we were definitely on and off. And I was like, this isn't anything serious, I'm just 23, you're just 23. We're just hanging out. But suddenly we got into an actual relationship, and then I actually broke up with him really early into the relationship because I didn't think he was like, I don't know, I think he was like too passive or something. And I was like, no biggie, we could still be friends. And then of course, like we got along so well, and then we started dating again. But then after we broke up and got back together, that's when my mindset changed and was like, okay, well, if we're getting back together and we had a chance to be with other people, and, we broke up, but you want to still be with me, then I have some expectations. That was going on in my mindset. Like, my expectation is like, okay, well, then this is the real deal. This was like, so we were together for a few months. I broke up with him. We got back together like within that same year. And then I was thinking in my head, okay, well, this is a real deal. This is going to be a real relationship. This is going to be for the long run. So I'm going to start looking at you like a boyfriend, and a potential husband. Well, it doesn't really work out that way for guys in particular. That it can happen, but I found that guys that you meet where you're just starting things casually, at least in my experience, it doesn't really work out that way. But, um, while we talked and stuff, of course, he was like, we are in a serious relationship, and everything told me that we were. I met his parents early on, his family early on, and then we started doing just holidays together. And throughout the 6 years, I think it was definitely on and off, but I never dated anyone other than him throughout pretty much all of my 20s. After I graduated, college from like 23 to 26, 23 to 30, I never dated anybody. And so really it was just him and I. And every time we were on and off, I would always be the one initiating the breakup. And it was through various reasons. But at the end of the day, in my mind, it really came down to he wasn't ready to commit, really, really commit. Every time we talked about marriage, those next steps, he was always hesitant to talk about it. I was always the one bringing it up. He was always scared to talk about it. So now I'm turning like 25, 26, and I'm like, okay, yes, in at 23, maybe I didn't want to get married in my early 20s, but maybe I want to get married in my like late 20s. And so, especially if I'm with the same guy for this many years, we should probably start talking about that stuff. But I noticed that he was always very hesitant of it. So, but the thing is, when we did break up, he one of the big mistakes was like we pretty much always kept in touch. And he would pull out these grand gestures to win me back. All of our breakups were, he never did anything outright wrong, that in my mind, that I was used to. He was never physically abusive. He was never emotionally abusive. People might like say, people could argue maybe he was emotionally abusive because he was stringing me along. And there's an argument for that, because he was stringing me along for 6 years while he knew he never wanted to be married. But he never cheated on me. He was never rude in a way like calling me names, nothing like that. So every time we broke up, it was never, I never like hated him after. And it's different from my previous relationships where it was like, okay, this is definitely easy to, I could have hate for an ex-boyfriend and it will make it easier to just part from them. But it never happened with him. So when he would pull out these grand gestures to win me back, I always fell for them. And I think a part of me I've been learning over the years is I realized something about myself. I think I am addicted to the feeling of falling in love. And I think many people could relate. And it's not love, it's limerence. I'm addicted to those butterflies, that feeling in your chest, and I would literally start to get physically dizzy thinking about falling in love, loving somebody, or like someone trying to win me back. So some of the examples that he did to win me back, for instance, he surprised me with a room full of balloons, and he gave me a nail, and the room was full of balloons all over the floor. And sorry, it's like chilly and cold outside, so but room full of balloons all over the floor, and he told me take the nail and pop them. So in every single balloon there was at least 50, 60 balloons. Every single balloon had a little note stuffed inside with something he wrote that he said he loved about me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the most romantic thing any guy has ever done for me. And just like, that's the stuff you do, if you're gonna get engaged or something, or like, yeah. So he, would pull out all the stops to get me back, and I would fall for it. And then I would notice we would go into a cycle, like, okay, we would get back together, and then he would become complacent. He would become passive. He would kind of go in his old ways and not want to talk about marriage. And so it kind of went into a cycle like that for the next 6 years. And yeah, I fell for it until the very last time when I was 29. He I think, well, by that time, we actually moved in together a few months before. And I think when it comes to marriage and living together, I tend to be very traditional. Like, yes, I partied and maybe had hookups and those relationships when I was in my 20s. But at the end of the day, with relationships long term, I do tend to be very traditional. So I was like, I want to get married before moving in. But then his mindset was, I need to move in before I get engaged to someone to know if I want to get engaged with him and such. And it's taken me long to realize, but it's true what everybody says. It shouldn't take a man 6 years to figure out if he wants to marry you or not. It really shouldn't when it comes to marriage. And so I decided to compromise, and I was like, okay, let's move in. We moved in for a few months. And then I asked him, like, does this mean we're taking the next step toward marriage? Does this mean, is this a next step? And he said, yes, it is. And we were getting along and everything. And, but one day he called me in the middle of work, freaking out, worrying about being engaged. And then at that time, of course, like, he was really freaking out. He was like hyperventilating. And, at the time I was comforting him, but after that conversation, I realized he really doesn't want to get married. Yeah, he's there's been signs before, but this is really aching him, and I realized he wasn't the man for me. And so I talked to him about it, and I said it is really concerning, told him my concerns and how it pains him to think about getting engaged and married to me. And if it pains him that much, that's really concerning. And so we had a heart-to-heart, and I told him, like, maybe you want to write a letter. Maybe you could, like, write a letter and say it to me, or give it to me, and it would help maybe organize your thoughts better, or just, like, tell me what you're feeling in a letter. Can you do that? And he said, yes, I can write a letter. And I waited for that letter for, I think, at least a week, about a week. It was a couple days. And every day that went by, I realized, like, it's taking him a long time to write this letter. And it kind of more and more cemented in my brain that he really was not the guy for me. He's not the one I should be with. Some heart-to-heart with some really honest friends also gave me the confidence to finally end it. So one day home from work, I came home to him, and he had roses for me and a letter. And I just broke down crying and told him right there and then. I thought I would wait at least like until we had dinner or something, but once I saw the roses and the letter, I knew I had to tell him. So I told him there and then, like, it's not gonna work out. I want to end things. And so I never read that letter. I don't know what he wrote in the letter. He did, of course, he was sad and he cried too, but he did say, like, at least we should keep the flowers because they're nice flowers. And I agreed. So, we were very cordial about it. We, uh, we definitely had the cordial breakup, and he, he tried to talk to me a little bit, to try to see if we could mend things, but I think when a woman is done, she is done. And I think that was one of those moments where I finally need to let go of him. And, he told me that uh, one day I'll find the guy um, that is for me. And so we kind of just left it at that. And we made preparations for him to move out. And um, so after he moved out, I made sure to really go no contact with him this time. And so I pretty much blocked his number. Um, and that was that, and just went on with my life. So that was 29, and that was 2019, at the end of 2019. Um, and then lo and behold, the next year, 2020, was a pandemic, and so that, I know that threw everybody for a loop, but I think that gave me a chance to finally be single again for a long time, because there wasn't a year that went by that I wasn't single, since I pretty much graduated college like years and years ago. So I think it was a good time for me. If anything good came out of the pandemic, it was definitely a time that was good for me to rediscover myself, be alone with my own presence. And so I stayed single for about 3 years, about, yeah, 3 years afterwards, because I broke up in 2019 and I started dating again in like the beginning of 2022. And of course, like those, being single for that long for the first time again, I mean, it wasn't all roses. Of course, I would tell some of my friends, like, I think everybody has a best friend except me. I remember telling that to one of my besties at the time. And, now that I've been alone, and now that I have culled down the number of friends I have as well, I realize that, like, I don't need a best friend. I don't think best friends are really needed. Um, Keeping good people in your life and just like being happy with yourself and is really good. And I really learned that, living alone and being alone, is is amazing. I never got bored. I always had something to do. I always had like my crafts, whether it was like music or video games or just, and I was like keeping myself busy with doing like my master's, keeping myself busy at work, of course. Like, I went to work the very next day that I broke up with my boyfriend of 6 years. um, just keeping myself busy. And so that was just kind of like my story of really my whole relationship journey, ever since my first boyfriend. But like, I just wanted to highlight the one that I was with, I was in for 6 years, because there's just so many stories out there, uh, of women in that same position. And I just want to say that, like, I did it. I left that 6-year relationship, and made it out on the other side. Um, during those 6 years, a lot of people uh, really liked us as a couple, and some of my friends would send me little memes and videos of people getting married or like just wedding stuff for some reason, and they would be like, "Linda, you're next." And I remember when I got that one video, that was the day after my boyfriend woke up in the middle of the night and just blurted out, "I don't know if I ever want to get married." And so I told my friend that right after she sent me the little meme. And then even she didn't know what to do. I wish, there's so many things I wish, but at the same time, I don't regret anything. But yeah, there were like my friends didn't know what to say. They were like, I don't know what to say. Like he's so good to you, and as far as they could see, like he was always like he got along with everybody. Um, and that night that he woke up saying, um, "I don't think I ever want to get married." Uh, I didn't know if I was gonna break up with him right then and there that night. Um, but then I just like kind of paused, and then soon after I got my cancer diagnosis from breast cancer, and then I stayed with him for 2 more years. So you never know. Like, yeah, that might have been a moment that I could have broken up with him, but then, things happen in life sometimes, and yeah, that definitely is a relationship where maybe I wasn't the most wise. Of course, I don't regret it though, because it leads me to where I am today, and like just made me realize who I am as well, and like what I want and what I don't want in a relationship. Because when I started dating that boy back when I was 23, I did not know what I wanted in a relationship. I even told him that this wasn't really a relationship. So, um, who um, who knows what I would have wanted back then? A lot of people are more wise than me at that age, but I definitely was not really. But a lot of learnings from that. And I just want to say that I'm glad I didn't decide to stay with him because, oh, we've been together 6 years already, or oh, my 20s are already wasted. Um, I didn't really have a thought in my head like, oh, I'm almost 30. Like, if I break up with him now, it'll all be a waste. To be honest, I was one of those young, naive girls that might have said something along the lines of, "Oh, she's 30, so she's like looking for a relationship," or something like that. I might have been one of those youngins in her 20s saying that. And yeah, that's kind of a mean thing to say. But I think that for myself, like, yes, while I was with him, I definitely did not want to be waiting around for that long to get married. And I think everybody also is on their own timeline. So it definitely um, is different and dependent on the relationship. But as long as you're on the same page with your significant other, then that's what matters. And I was not on the same page. We were not on the same page together. Because yeah, he wouldn't even want to bring up the subject or talk about marriage, and it was always such a strain. I mean, in his mind, his reasonings were he didn't want to get divorced. He was afraid of divorce. He was afraid of also losing a lot of money somehow too, even though I made like double his income. And if anybody's losing money, it probably would have been me. But uh, he was afraid of divorce. And it's weird because his parents, like, they're still together. My parents are still together. So I don't know where he was getting that fear from. But at the end of the day, he just didn't want to, and didn't want to with me. And so that's where we had to just part ways. And, with my own story of what happened after we broke up, I think that I'm just so glad that whatever happened had happened. Even though I could have been more wise during that time. Eventually, I came to my senses and it opened up so many new possibilities for me, whether it was enjoying being single, living alone, having my own schedule, and just my own just self to take care of. Not really having to worry about another person for a couple years. And then when I was ready to date, then I met some really cool people. Um, I'll talk a little bit about that too, if anybody's interested. So, out of the pandemic, um, I that also gave me an excuse like, oh, I don't need to like go out because I'm scared of like seeing people, talking to people, even just like getting close to people. So 2022 is like, okay, let me make an effort to try to date again. Um, and so I joined the apps. First, I tried Hinge, and I met some people there, but then eventually I realized that they weren't really looking for marriage either. And I think when I first started the apps, I also maybe set the wrong precedent because I didn't want to come off as like quote unquote desperate or anything. So if anybody's been on the apps, there's usually an option saying like looking for casual, looking for serious relationship, and then there's looking for marriage. And I know like I'm already in my 30s, like I know I want to get married eventually, but I didn't want to like scare off anybody, I guess. So I just said looking for a serious relationship. And I realized like pretty much all the guys that I was going on dates with a couple times, they really weren't, they put serious relationship, but they weren't even looking for a serious relationship. um I was really lucky in my app experience where I met a lot of cool guys. Every first date I had was awesome, really fun. I felt like I'm like pretty good at when I if I am not shy, and I'm pretty good at making people feel comfortable, and I'm pretty good at like holding conversation. I'll say so myself, but I actually was surprised by that because I thought it would be really awkward. But online dating did give me a lot of confidence because every single first date I went on was a good date. And especially after the horror stories that I hear from some of my girlfriends where they have to like escape out the back rooms of a date, that actually happened one time with one of my girlfriends. And so I'm glad that I always felt safe. I never had to do that. And then there were a few guys that I went on multiple dates with. But I started seeing that they were either not really looking for a serious relationship or just like very, as I got to know them more, just like very incompatible with me. So I'm also grateful that I got to know those guys, even though they didn't work out. I got to get that feeling of limerence out of my body, out of my psyche again, because I found myself getting addicted to the feeling of falling in love again. It's been like 3 years since I've ever had anything romantic with anybody, and so I guess I I don't know, maybe I forgot that feeling, and then when it came up again with, like, one of the first guys I was dating for went on a couple dates with, I was like, "Is this love?" I know, I was crazy. I was a little psycho, but, yeah, when we were dating into a couple dates, I started getting that feeling and started getting dizzy in love. And then I realized that he was definitely not the guy for me. I realized it soon afterwards, actually. And so I'm just glad I got that feeling out of my mind. So when I met the guy that eventually would become my boyfriend, I wasn't like insane or crazy acting really. I don't know. Maybe I still was, but he's still with me, so maybe not as insane. But I got that feeling of limerence outside, that like rush of just like fake feelings, fake love, just like that feel over heightened feeling that like can blind you, because it definitely was blinding me in the past as well. And funnily enough, I started on Hinge. Those guys weren't for me. Then I went on Coffee Meets Bagel, and I should have started there from the beginning because that was recommended by my friend. And she found her fiance on Coffee Meets Bagel, and she knows of another gal friend that found her fiance on Coffee Meets Bagel. So it's like, okay, maybe I should start trying this app. And I found that Coffee Meets Bagel was maybe more for my liking. I think it like maybe was more for my personality because it was made by ambitious women. It has a lot of ambitious women in there. I tend to be very ambitious go-getter. And so I did like how they highlighted like education as well. And also this time, after going on dates on the other apps and then taking a good break from the apps when things didn't work out, I took a break. I went to solo travel the world and just like did my own trips, my own thing. I got a tattoo, another tattoo, I guess. And so I kind of just was doing my own thing. I took a break, came back to the apps, and decided, okay, I'm going to do things differently here. I'm going to say I'm looking for marriage, not just serious relationship. I'm going straight for marriage because these guys that I've been meeting, that like I've been going on, some that I've been going on multiple dates with, I feel like it was going way too long before I realized they weren't for marriage. And also, since it was a new app, I forgot to set a lot of the criteria that I did have. And this is a funny one that I told my current boyfriend as well, that I actually did have a height thing set when I first started the dating apps. I'm like, okay, well, I'm a certain height. Let me set the height like higher than like my height or something, or this much higher. And just because like, that's what I'm attracted to. And so in the when I went to Coffee Meets Bagel, new app, forgot to set a bunch of those settings. Um and one of the first people that came up was my boyfriend. And he actually he actually was under the height that I used to set for the other that I used to set previously. And also he said he was looking for marriage. And he caught my eye right away when he messaged me, and we texted nonstop until we actually met up. And like, I think he's just extremely, extremely attractive today. Of course, I'm still with him. What am I going to say? He might see this, so I have to. I don't have to say that. But anyways, it worked out in the end. It also was a bonus that he was really close to me. And after I was lamenting to my girlfriends, like, I'm finding all these duds on the app. I need to move to a different state or something. I want to move out of this state. I'm not finding anyone here. But then he was actually like the closest one to me. And so that's how the rest of my dating history went. And it was back in, yeah, that same year, 2022, when we met. We're still together. And funnily enough, I actually did run into my ex of 6 years earlier this year. And it was at a mutual friend's wedding. And I had my boyfriend as my plus one. And we were non-contact until for like about a year. And then I decided to I decided to just unblock him, and maybe either I checked in with him first, or he reached out to me first, and this was before I started dating again, but I really wasn't, yeah, there wasn't any like romantic bone in my body that wanted to get back with him. But we did touch base, and he did mention, like, yeah, I think you blocked me or something. And then I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. But honestly, I was not sorry. Never be sorry for blocking an ex boyfriend, ever. But I'm glad I did it. But yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. Sometimes it goes like that. So, so we were cordial to each other, and so I got to kind of we got to kind of catch up over a phone call, and I think that he was saying he was dating. He was like, it's really weird talking to you about that, and I was like encouraging him, like, oh no, that's good that you're dating. And then I think that's one of the things that spurred me to start dating. I'm like, oh well, he's dating. I really should get dating. But I mean, honestly, I would have started dating anyways. But yeah, that was probably one of the things that spurred me. Like, well, I guess I should get on the apps. I didn't tell him that, but that's what happened afterwards. So when I saw him, going back to current events at our mutual friend's wedding, when I saw him this year, it wasn't a surprise. Like, I knew he was gonna be there. We were on cordial terms. We were just catching up back and forth. I was also making it a point to limit my contact with him. And before the wedding, I actually did message him, like one kind of final message saying, like, I think it's best if we don't speak anymore. I wish you the best. I wish all the best for you, but I wish it's the best. And that's just like how I am. I don't really talk with my exes. And I was in another relationship at that time, and I told him how I'm in another relationship, and and it's a serious relationship, and so, and he also told me he was in a relationship too. And so I think, just like out of respect for my own relationship and just for my own comfort, there really was no use in keeping in touch with my ex-boyfriend, of that I was with for 6 years. But we did see each other at at the wedding earlier this year, and we did catch up a little bit, and man, it's just funny how things work out, because I just, I'm so glad that we decided to separate. Um, he is, he is a great person, a great human being, and I only wish the best for him. I think that, um, when we update each other on our life events, it made me just really assured me that it was the right decision for us to separate. Um, for lack of better words, he is still living his bachelor days, still kind of in that phase of just going about life, not, for lack of better words, he hasn't really grown up. He hasn't really grown up into someone, like, I don't know where he was gonna end up. Who knows? He might have eventually ended up marrying another girl, and if that's the case, and I would have been happy for him as well. And he might still find a girl that's he will marry, and just who knows where his life will be. But um, yeah, for what is it, 2024, 5 years after we broke up, he's kind of still, doing he's the same old guy that I was with, for better or for worse. And I think that he's living a life that he wants to live, and I'm living a life that I want to live, and our lives are very, very different now, I would say. But I would say we're both living a life we both want to live. But other than that, no drama at when we met up or anything. Like, he met my current boyfriend, everybody was cordial. Um, like, I gave him a hug and stuff, and so there was really no drama, but it definitely really cemented that we are very different people and we are in very different parts of our lives right now, and it's the lives that we want to live. And so, with that being said, I think that, after a long relationship like that, I'm so happy that I wasn't afraid at the end to really call it quits, really go no contact at the end. I'm so thankful that I was in a position that I didn't have to depend on him, because I know there's many out there who want to leave their relationship or have been thinking about it, but there's just something holding them back. Maybe it's just been so long that maybe they have to depend financially on their partner. And that's happened before, where I've seen people leave their partner but still have to depend financially on their partner. So they still have to be in contact and things like that. And then there goes the back and forth. And so I'm so thankful I didn't have to have really any ties. I felt bad about, cutting out his family, but because I loved his family, his parents loved me. Um, they even, called me after my cancer surgery when I woke up and telling me they love me. And so when we broke up, it was bittersweet, and I ended up, you know, writing them a letter saying thank you for all their support over the years. And it's still sad to think about, like, the extended relationships we've like built along the way, like other than the significant other, but like thinking of like how much love our significant others, like parents and families, can give us, and I'm like always thankful of that, and always thankful of like how caring and nice his family and was. And like I'm so thankful that now in my new relationship I get to experience that again. And it's like, having a second family, and I'm always thankful that, I don't know, I tend to get along with my boyfriend's families and stuff. But anyways, I wrote them a letter and they really appreciated it, but that's like that's a door closed on that part. And I'm happy that I found the strength to finally leave that relationship. And um you know you could always try to put the onus on the guy to end things, but sometimes they don't. And sometimes they want to, even if you end it, sometimes they just want to try to win you back or get back with you, even if they don't ever plan on marrying you, which is messed up. It's really messed up. Guys, don't do that. Don't string girls along. But it's also up to us as the women to recognize that and see it for what it is. So, how's my life looking right now? I just wanted to say that that boyfriend that I met on the dating apps 2.5 years ago, well, we actually ended up becoming engaged. So, yeah, that was really recent. I had never actually announced that on my other channels or anything yet. But yeah, we are engaged now. And he definitely is a man that said he was looking for marriage in the apps and is true to his word. And so we've been talking about marriage pretty much since like the first month we've been dating, and he was the one who brought it up. And where on like our fifth date or something, he asked like, "Would your dad approve if like I wanted to marry you?" And then it's been such a journey, but the past 2.5 years with this man, has been so magical, and we still text every single day, throughout the day while he's at work or I'm at work to like just catch up and met each other's families, of course. And he asked my dad for my hand in marriage and everything. And so, yeah, he's really respectful of that traditional stuff. And he definitely shares the same values that I do in this point of time. And so, yeah, who knows? There might be some wedding planning stuff on this channel going forward in the near future. Who knows, though? But I am not a wedding planner. I kind of just want to plan like the simplest thing if we can, and just spend the rest of our married lives together. But whether I got into a relationship or not, like even spending those 3 years alone without a relationship, is it was such a blessing to me after breaking up. And it's just like kind of a cherry on top that I found a man that really wants to be with me and spend his life with me, and declared it in front of my parents and his parents. And so that's what I wanted to leave off with. Like, if you do find yourself questioning if he wants to marry you or be with you, you shouldn't have to think too hard. You shouldn't have to think too hard, or you shouldn't have to guess too hard if he wants the same things as you. He'll let you know. And there's some guys that will just try to string you along, but at the end of the day, you'll know. And yeah, to all my girlies out there, sorry, a little bit sniffles. To all my girlies out there, uh, you'll have the strength, and just wanted to give you a little bit more pep talk, because I wish I got more of this when I was in your position as well. And for those who might have come across this video that came from my gaming channel, you might know my boyfriend, now fiance, as APS from my Inyoke gaming channel. So I'll still be on that channel a lot. I stream about every single day, but on this channel, I'll do more talks and just random stuff with Linda Says Things. And if you like this content and you want to see more, I just want to talk, guys. I just want to talk to all my girlies out there, uh, just to chat. And feel free to chat in the comments below too. Thanks for joining on. All right, bye.